And let's go into news. So, one of the things that I found very interesting was I saw an article saying that Hiroko Tsumi, who was the director of Banana Fish, which I'm currently watching right now. I'm like getting through it, and I'm only on the episode 2, but anyway, you've watched it before, but you said it was good. But Hiroko Tsumi and Bones, they're supposed to be announcing a new original anime. So I'm always down for anime originals, and since Banana Fish has gotten like a really good, reception, I'm down for whatever the fuck they're gonna announce. The Burn the Witch trailer with like the opening song came out. The song is like, yeah, okay, cool, but everything I'm seeing in the animation, I'm just like, oh bitch, this looks so good. Like, it just looks really, really good. And I also didn't know that Burn the Witch was going to be like a movie. I thought it was going to actually be like a 12 episode thing, but apparently it's like a movie for Japan, and then it's going to air in like 3 separate episodes elsewhere. And that's it.
Yeah, that's cool. I also didn't know that. I also thought that it was going to be a weekly series, but
yeah.
But I should have known better, because when I went to go peek at the manga, it hadn't really gotten too far. So
yeah, well, I saw today that he announced Burn the Witch season 2,
right,
for the manga. So I'm like, oh, okay, well that's okay. Something's coming.
Yeah,
like,
and I haven't read it, so I don't know if even the style of it is more episodic than just like a regular kind of serialized thing. I don't know. I know very little. I've kind of kept myself out of digging too deep into it, especially once I found out that it was still like Bleach continuation material. I was like, all right, I can hold off and relax, and it'll be fine. Because if I get back into it, my hopes will get up. And we already know that we're getting the 1,000-Year War arc animated at some point. So I'm fine with this as high quality supplemental material.
Yes, I'm all for it. What else? So Eden's Zero, which is like the next manga that Hiro Mashima did after Fairy Tail, it's getting a video game. So that means it's only a matter of time until the anime is coming. But also, I did not read it because I read Fairy Tail right up until like the final arc, and the characters look almost exactly the same. So I'm kind of just like, bruh, what are you doing?
I mean, but that's always been true, right?
Oh, from Rave Master?
Yeah, going way back to Rave Master. It's the same. He
I
always does this where
Rave
there's like there's always a talking cat named like Lucky or something. There's always a Lucy-looking character that may have a slightly different name.
Everyone has big tits,
right? And the lead, it seems to evolve a little bit. I mean, that's the part that seems to change bit by bit.
The only thing that really changes is the fucking lead's hair.
Yeah, pretty much. And and then everything else about the different series, they are different. They have their own vibe,
different worlds.
Right. Right.
But I hear that Eden's Zero is in the same universe as Fairy Tail or something.
I know nothing about it. I mean, I know in that I've looked and seen that it existed, and it seems to have done quite well for something that's not been running more than like a year and a half.
Yeah, it hasn't been out for that long.
Yeah, it's not long, but it's in Weekly Shonen Magazine, which is a pretty. It has a fair circulation. Everyone knows Shonen Jump, but there are tiers, I guess you could say, of like these weekly and monthly mags in Japan, and this one is still pretty up there. So, I will keep an open mind. I was a mediocre fan of Rave Master when it came out. I thought it was cool, but I didn't really think there was much to it other than it was very flashy. And then I saw Fairy Tail, and I basically felt the exact same way, that it wasn't bad, it was flashy, but there really wasn't much to it. I know people who are like deep into that shit, and more power to you if that's your cup of tea. And I have not read anything about Eden Zero. Does it somehow start in like an amusement park or something, or am I mistaking it with something
idea.
else?
I heard it had something to do with space.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know very much about it. I'm sure if I went and picked it up, I would have a pleasant couple of hours, then I'd probably get bored, and that would kind of be it.
Yeah, I agree. I will say that I did enjoy some of the plot devices that he explored with the end of Fairy Tail. Like some of that shit at the end was really fucked up. And I know some people are saying that final arc wasn't that good, but that shit was good to me for a culminating arc. I'm not saying the big bad guy at the end was worth it, but some of those like individual storylines and the reveals and the shit that's been going on for like centuries behind the scenes, I was like, oh, this is dirty.
Cool. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I didn't actually hear too much complaining about the end of Fairy Tail, which
really, I saw complaining.
Yeah.
I saw complaining because I waited for it to finish and then I watched the entire final arc. And so I saw people bitching about the final arc and they were like, this is the worst Fairy Tail arc ever. And I was like, bitch, I'm loving this. Were you kidding me?
Yeah, I think I'm just not in the spaces where the hardcore fans would, their opinion would reach me. In general, most of the people I know who were into it are much younger. And they're, like I have a cousin and she really likes Fairy Tail and she likes to draw a lot of Fairy Tail stuff. And I never heard anything negative. I use her as my barometer. Because, I'm not going to read it. So I'm just like, whatever you like, shout out to Anissa. Her first year of college is the worst year ever, but I'm wishing you luck. but that said,
especially during this year,
Eden Zero looks all right, and I wouldn't be surprised if, it gets announced for an animated series. Because it just seems like Mashima makes a lot of good stuff for that audience. They like it, and he's been producing things, I guess, going on 20 years now, which is crazy. But
holy shit, yeah, he has been around for a minute. Fairy Tail ran for a while.
Fairy Tail ran for longer than I thought it would have.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Fairy Tail was going to end several times, and then he did that time skip, and I was like, oh shit, oh okay, here we go.
Yeah.
The Toei PV came out that focuses primarily on Neku. And it actually looks, it's kind of weird how faithful it is to the game. Like it looks like the scene, like the comic book, still scenes pulled directly out of the game and animated. Like it looks really, really, it looks cool, but I'm also just like, oh, this doesn't look like the other kind of anime that I'm used to. Like, oh. Not in a bad way, but it's like I feel like my eyes are going to have to get used to it. But it looked good. A lot of places removed Attack on Titan from the fall schedule. Because I was like, we haven't heard shit about that since the fucking trailer. So, of course. And then the biggest thing is that SAO Progressive got announced. Which I know a lot of people are fucking excited for. And I didn't even know what Progressive was until I woke up and read an article about it today.
Right, I have no idea what it is, so please educate me.
Oh, so basically, SAO Progressive, it's almost like the reboot that you said. But basically, it's a retelling of the Aincrad arc.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically what it does is it goes back and it expands upon the Aincrad arc and it gives us way more details and behind the scenes shit of what was going on. As opposed to simply just Kirito's point of view.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
there's a lot to really get into there.
I hear people enjoy it. I haven't heard bad things about it. I haven't heard any bad things about it.
I'm not a purist, but I don't think SAO is very good. Spoiler alert. And I think one of the problems that it has that stems from the Aincrad arc is that what it purports to be as a series is not what it actually is in terms of content, storytelling, character progression, and development. Even the big hits, plot-wise, tell a very different story than the vibe of that first chapter and that first episode of SAO. There's a second problem, which is it's massively popular. It is absurdly popular. It's so popular.
It's too big to fail now.
Right, that in order to fix it as a story, and I can imagine that this was probably, I assume this is a light novel that got released, in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I think it is.
So if that's the case, and let's say the author with some help is going back and saying, here are the things that I wish I had done or talked about or explained or done whatever in the original, I don't imagine that it's even remotely possible that even the original author could address these issues that I would have and other people like me probably have with the series without fucking it up for all the people who like what it was. Which means that they're not going to do that. Which means that, do I really want SAO plus SAO side stories from season 1? Personally, I do not. But
I mean,
maybe that I guess what I'm saying is there's a whole part of season 1 that just needs to be removed. But it's also the part that everybody likes the most. But from a storytelling point of view, it just fucks everything up, and it's stupid. But
honestly, yeah. I mean, you really can't get much worse than the fucking not Gungale online. What the fuck? The fairy
you're
one?
Talking about the Elfheim, whatever.
Elfheim, yeah. If that was one of the quickest descents of just of a series I've seen ever.
Right.
Where I was the quality literally jumped off a fucking cliff. What the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's funny because as you've pointed out to me, in the later whatever the part is, was it the War of the Underworld stuff that they're
yeah, it's good.
With now. Part of the reason why it's good is because it's not a fucking harem anymore. It's just a show. Because Kirito's out of it. There's a plot that's self-contained. Most of it takes place inside of that little fake fantasy world. Those are all the best parts. No Kirito, a lot less ass pulling, no harem.
And this
you take that away, and there's some fun, interesting things happening. And then on top of that, every time they switch back to what's going on in the human side of things, the real world, you just get gobbledygook nonsense. It's fucking stupid. It's just
gobbledygook nonsense.
It's nonsense. You're talking. We made digital souls, and then we put them in the machine.
I don't
and then
even care about what they do in the
none of that fucking matters. It's the least compelling part. But thankfully, in the new adaptations, there's not that much of that. You go back to original SAO. The moment he and whatever her name is it Setsuna or whatever? What's her name? Asuna. There we go. The moment they get together as a couple, there should be none just let them have a relationship. No fucking digital fairy fake daughter nonsense. No weird rape analogies or near rapes when she gets poisoned and then the guy's I'm gonna kill Kirito, but I'm also gonna molest this girl. Get rid of all that shit. If you pull that out and just let the rest of the story be finishing off the final villain, all the same reveals, whatever, that's a nice, solid show. But the other stuff, especially the Elfheim part, where it's now his sister's trying to fuck him, and it's why? Why are we doing this? There's no need for it. Yeah, also too many little kids. Maybe that's gonna be a theme, but get these
too many little kids.
Get the what's her face from the Gungale. That whole
the Gungale or Sinon?
Yeah, people like that character. No children. Get these children out of this story. Get the children out. Make them adults or something else.
Oh well, that's not gonna happen.
Because it's creep.
No, that is not gonna. They are not gonna make them adults.
I know they won't. That's what I'm saying. They don't have the balls to do it. They don't have the balls to piss off all their borderline pedophile fans.
No. And there it is.
They don't.
Those body pillows don't sell them fucking selves. Damn it.
Yes, okay? That's factual. I'm fine with whatever they do. I will give it a glance. That's probably as far as I'm gonna go with it. But
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting caught up on War of Underworld, because even the first episode of that was so bloody. It was just they literally, and that there are stakes and stuff now.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That I'm just oh, I like this. Yeah. But yeah, the stakes are what make it so much more interesting to me, especially with, well, I'm not going to spoil that part because, some of y'all might still want to watch it. So even still, I enjoyed Underworld for what it was. I have no idea where the story is going to go. I haven't even finished that final season. I will say I do enjoy the villain for War of Underworld. He's a sick motherfucker. He's sick. He's y'all. He's really sick.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop hating. It's fine where it is.
I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Like, just because the series is popular doesn't mean that everyone has to automatically like it.
Sure, it's not. I guess it's less so that it's popular because I like a lot of stuff that's pretty mainstream. I just feel like I want to see more bravery on the part of producers of popular things. Just show me a little bit of bravery.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's money.
I agree. No, I totally agree. Now, that to me would be we can have a conversation about this later, but that to me, the decision to make a choice that might piss people off, but then stick the landing and still produce something that's good and compelling. That to me is the difference between good creators and production teams and marketing companies
but also that's really hard to come by.
Oh sure, yeah, of course.
That's really hard. So that's most likely, I'm thinking that's the reason why it's not common, because putting together a team is extremely fucking hard. I think I spoke about this in one of the previous episodes too, about an article. I think it was it was when we found that article about the Galapagos
syndrome thing.
The Galapagos syndrome, and it was it that part? And they also were talking about the money and how it comes into the Netflix money.
And
how it comes into the actual industry, and the reason why it's so hard to produce really, really good fucking shows, because the people who you want to pay, you don't have the money to pay them because the money is sitting up at the top.
Right.
And so they're constantly hopping between studios, as opposed to sticking at one studio and building a team that's always just going to knock that shit out the park.
Yeah, and I never want to lead with the idea that creating art, especially collaborative art that takes dozens, if not hundreds of people, sometimes millions of dollars, is ever going to be an easy thing. In fact, criticism is the easiest thing that you can do, because you're looking at the product well after it's been mashed through the machine. You're not talking about how do I build a better machine, or even how was this made and at what point did it fail, or where was it destined to fail. I mean, that's the level that we're dealing with it as consumers is way down the line. So I'm not here to say to anybody that just because something didn't work for me, or didn't work for a lot of people, or did work for a lot of people, necessarily implies anything about the folks behind it, because it's really difficult. I'm just saying that I have higher standards now than I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was just happy for the hype. Whatever the hype was, I was with it, because who doesn't like hype? As an adult, going back and consuming a lot of stuff, I'm much more sensitive to the sort of the creative part of it. I'm sensitive to it. I'm still locked in for hype, don't get me wrong. But I want to see some boundary pushing, but I also want to see some bravery. I want to see some real sticking to the guns that would make something better, rather than something that would initially be more popular. Because if I think back to the shows, the series, manga, or otherwise, movies, doesn't matter, the ones that really last and aren't just disposable fast food, in addition to being lucky and tapping into cool ideas or whatever it was that made them the it thing at the time they were out, normally there's also that other side of creative competence and boundary pushing that give you that timelessness, so that people can go back and be okay, this is whatever. Because keep it a buck, would you need an SAO progressive if SAO season 1 was a masterpiece? No.
But it wasn't.
No.
It wasn't a master. Yeah, you wouldn't need it, but it wasn't a masterpiece. And I mean, that's just is what it is. I don't know what else to say. Like, it wasn't a masterpiece, and I feel like, maybe he's come to terms with it. It's just like, you know what? I need to expand upon this. Or maybe the way I see it is that he's probably doing, or he probably did progressive. I don't know if it's still being serialized right now, but I feel like he's probably doing this to drop more hints or like foreshadowing and like tying some other shit together for like the next big arc.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the other issue,
how I see it.
It at some point you've gotten so deep on the forward progress of the story that you've unintentionally, damaged your own continuity or retcon things or whatever, and you have to clean it up somehow. Like comic books, unlike manga that are serialized, tend to get away with this by just being able to rewrite whole parts of a story when they feel like it for like a character. Like, you know what? We didn't like this direction, so we're pulling the plug on it. We're going a slightly different direction with Superman this year, and
at least the biological sister is actually the sister.
Sure. So I don't begrudge it existing.
Wait, no, she's not. No, she's not. Never mind.
I'll give it an episode just to wet my palate, and then I leave it to the true SAO fans to really.
I mean, listen, I'm here for it. We're gonna get more music. They always have really high production value.
They do.
So we'll see.
The money is there.
That's all the news that I have, though. Like,
yeah. So the couple of like small notes. We're sort of getting to the end of the. We're ramping into the fall season. Getting to the end of the summer season, so that usually means that you're getting more promotional video. My show of the season initially next year is probably going to be Jujutsu Kaisen, so they had the third promo video up. They've got the opening song. If you're into that kind of thing, you can find it online. Just look it up. I think it's pretty cool. They released some more key art. One of the things I like about this version of the art style, if you go and ever read or take a look at a panel from Jujutsu Kaisen, it has a very distinct kind of angular feel to all the faces and limbs and fingers. It's sort of like a boxy, squared off kind of vibe. And they decide to go a slightly different, more rounded and realistic look for the TV show. So it doesn't quite have that like painterly quality, at least from I've seen, that would be from the manga. But that doesn't in any way actually take away from the experience. I think it's just a different way of expressing what's there. So this is probably not going to be a series where you get sort of like frame for frame remakes or stills that look like they're ripped from the manga. But everything I've seen in motion looks really good. So I'm not a complainer. I've not checked to see if this has bothered anybody. I doubt it would. It when you look at some like the cover art, it doesn't look, I would say, as distinct and exciting as some of the volume art for the manga does. But if you're not a reader, will it mean much to you? Probably not. So, I am not upset about it at all. It's the same director as parts of Attack on Titan, Banana Fish, Vinland Saga, and God of High School. Everything else is cool. So those who are interested, check that out. It's out there. There was also a really neat article on Shaman, the director from the original Shaman King 2001 TV anime, came out and gave some of his thoughts about the TV only material. And there's not a lot that's new there if you were a big fan of the original, but one of the things that did stick out was that the changes both to some of the visual elements as well as the what you might call like filler or like side story stuff actually came from Shueisha, which is the parent company over the production studio. And so that was interesting that if you look at the time period that this was in, so Shaman King was adapted in 2001. In like 2003, 2004, you had Full Metal Alchemist. These were a couple of almost, I won't say identical cases, but very similar cases where the show was edited and reoriented by the production company for various reasons. And in Full Metal Alchemist case, it just wasn't, the manga wasn't done, so they gave their own ending. I think actually Shaman King was running while the show was on. It was close to the end.
Yeah.
It wasn't done yet. And so a similar kind of thing happened there where they had a request for extra material and then like TV only ending stuff. So I thought that was just interesting that to note where the poking and prodding was coming from. And lastly, the PlayStation reveal was earlier this week. We're recording on the 19th of September, but the Final Fantasy 16 trailer dropped, and I think
it was a
surprise for a lot of people because it was putting off Final Fantasy 14 vibes visually, as well as some of the storytelling design, and then you got to see a couple minutes of the game in action, and it looks like a evolution from what they were doing in Final Fantasy 7. And what clicked in the back of my brain when I saw the trailer was less so the Final Fantasy 14 stuff, because I didn't play, so I don't really have that frame of reference even visually. But about a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, there was a story that had floated around that Square Enix had gone on a little headhunting spree and poached some talent from other Japanese game studios, and the sort of most high profile individual was the combat director, or ultimately we learned was the combat director from Devil May Cry 5, and for an undisclosed project. It was presumed to be the next Final Fantasy game after the 7 remake. As it turns out, he is Yoshida. He's a producer on 16, and if you look at some of the action in the trailers, you can absolutely see the Devil May Cry DNA all over this thing in a really good way. So I really enjoyed 7, and before that, I as flawed as it was, I did think 15 was very good once they fixed it. 16 looks really interesting and cool. I don't have the background in 14 to really know what to make of sort of this studio, because it's the same studio, the same team behind the Shadowbringers expansion. So for those of you who are MMO players or familiar with 14, I hope that means good things. I haven't heard anything bad about Shadowbringers. I've only heard good things. The trailers I saw for that almost made me want to play an MMO till I kicked myself and realized, like, it's an MMO. What am I doing? So that's about it. And it's only anime adjacent, but it looked good. 16 looks good.
So then I'm gonna slide back in for this, because I actually, after learning about all these things, I'm actually not that excited for it. Unless certain things happen. I need female party members. Like, I need them. I don't know why they weren't in 15. That was just so weird. And, like, did they even get to the DLC where Homegirl was actually able to be a party member, or was that after the cancellation?
Wasn't that afterwards?
I think it was, yeah, I don't even think
I thought
she
they had the 3 episodes for, like, the other
Yeah,
people.
She was supposed to get her own episode and become playable. Because people were like, what? Where the fuck is the rest of the party? Like, we only have these 4, and then you could only play as Noctis for the majority of the game. Like, it was just, there were weird design decisions from the jump that I kind of was just like, I don't like this. And from what I saw in the trailer, it looks like it's more of the same 15, where it's kind of just like, we're going to be controlling this one character the majority of the time. And I don't like that. Also, it looks super action RPG-ish. And I kind of want some more, like, I want some, like, turn-based, but, like, you know, or, like, the option to, like, you know, turn-based or action RPG or something like that. But if it's going to be, like, full-on, like, and it even looked similar to, like, Souls-esque games.
Or Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, or like Dragon's Dogma. And to the point where I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to, I mean, I'm going to buy it. It's Final Fantasy, of course. But I'm just like, I don't know if I am a fan of the direction that it's going in. Like, when I think of Final Fantasy, I'm thinking of, like, yes, RPG. This is my party. These 4 niggas are going to be in the party for this battle. And this next battle, you're going to be in the party. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I don't know. I'm over the, like, singular character Final Fantasy. Like, they did it with 15. It wasn't bad. It was just, like, you know, convoluted mess because, you know, of whatever was going on with Nomura, and then them switching directors midway through just to get the shit out. and then them like constantly fixing it after it was out. Like the thing with Naoki Yoshida, he puts his all into Final Fantasy 14. Like he's the reason why Final Fantasy 14 came back and became what it was. He's the one who is responsible for A Realm Reborn. And there are shit tons of articles all over the place about how he came in and basically was like, hey, this is not going to be fun. Like, we have to make this shit better, like, than anything out there at the moment, or else no one is gonna fuck with us no more on these Final Fantasy MMOs. And they did that shit, and it's really amazing and it's super popular. And so with that, I trust him being part of the game, or being the, the director and the producer. But I just don't want... I don't know. It's one trailer. I know it's a lot to jump to conclusions about. But I'm just like, man, I really don't want an action RPG Final Fantasy. Like, that's what we have Kingdom Hearts for. That's my action RPG.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to NoClip. Had a great documentary on the Realm Reborn. Everything leading up to and
oh yeah,
the
I think
Reborn
that might be what I watched.
They got a lot of like one-on-one interviews with all sorts of staff up and down, like going back.
I did watch that. I think that's what I watched.
Yeah, it's an exceptional documentary. It's rare to, especially like in the game industry, where a lot of the people who sit behind the scenes, even like directors and producers, don't actually get an opportunity to tell the story about how a lot of these big titles get made, and also like the BS, frankly, that goes on behind the scenes. So the story of Realm Reborn itself is fascinating, because in a lot of cases studios would just cut bait on something that failed in the way that 14 did. And
yeah, and
it's something
hard.
that I would say honestly you would only really ever see out of like a Japanese business. The approach that they took, it was a tremendous expense, and it's a really great story. I recommend that documentary on the NoClip YouTube channel on Final Fantasy 14. And in addition to that, I don't know if you played 7 Remake. What they were doing.
I haven't finished 7 Remake.
Okay, but you've gotten hands on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my guess is that it's really more a successor, because I think it's probably running on the same engine or a slightly.
Now, if it's like 7 Remake, I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
They didn't show any party members, so we
don't
know. And then lastly, I did do a quick look up, and I guess the Final Fantasy 15's Comrade DLC, which I never downloaded because I
never played that.
Yeah, no. It was like it was like some extra stuff in the middle of Chapter 13, and I only went back and replayed 15 when they made all the the
Royal Edition.
Yeah, like I was the Royal Edition. Like I wasn't gonna play it again just to hop in for that mid story DLC, but in that DLC you can design and play as a female character.
That's cute. Ain't nothing to do with the story though.
No, not really.
Like that's the thing. And you know what? I said this on Twitter the other day. I enjoyed 13 because all of the characters had like something to do. Because I love Final Fantasy 9, but one of my gripes with it is that like I'm Amarant, he joins the party, he has this little arc, and then he's kind of just there for the rest of the time. Like he's not really like titular to the story or like has anything going on with anyone else, as opposed to like Eiko. And so I'm just like, I really like 13 because they were like, no, every single one of these motherfuckers has something to do with this shit. Like, you need to play with this person during this particular part of the story. You need to play with only these people during this part of the story. They kept the party a certain size, and it worked out really well. That was one thing I liked. 13 had a lot of faults. I'm not gonna lie, okay? Listen, it did. I'll give it to you. But this isn't about that stuff. Whatever. Anyways, I'm optimistic about it, but I'm definitely not hyped.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. I think that the music sounded great. The English VAs they got were pretty cool. The look is different. The remixing,
it looks like Final Fantasy 14
tropes and everything else seemed fresh. I don't really.
I like the return to not mecha.
Yeah,
shit.
Old school fantasy trappings. pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of like
that
blood.
Marlboro looked
it
amazing.
seems like this is going to be very political. So who knows? That's hit or miss. It's not a that requires a certain deftness of writing that I don't know if Final Fantasy has had a strange history with that sort of storytelling. The best that I think they ever were able to accomplish that was 6. So that's for those in the West, that was Final Fantasy 3 on Super Nintendo. That was, back in the day when these RPGs were really dialogue heavy. I think that's the best they've ever handled that. 12, I enjoyed. A lot of people felt that
I like 12.
Yeah, I like 12 too, but I know that it was hit or miss for a lot of people because the backstory and lore and the politics and everything else they went over a lot of people's heads. And there were times I think they could have presented some of it better. Part of it is because your characters in that game they're not sort of the principal actors for most of the game. With respect to like what's moving the story forward. It's not really until you get around the midpoint when a certain thing happens and you're introduced to a certain very powerful character who starts chasing you around. And at that point, you are sort of embedded in the other events. But prior to that, things are just sort of happening around you. And there are, I really did love, I mean, we could go on a tangent here, but I love the opening of Final Fantasy 12 because I think it actually did do a good job of setting up the occupation scenario that then the story weaves its way in and out of. But I'm just talking about strictly the politics part didn't work for a lot of people and they were turned off by it. So
I read that Vaughn got added at the last moment.
Yeah, I do remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Bosch was supposed to be the main character.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can tell because isn't
made so much sense.
In the logo?
Bosch?
Yeah.
I think that is him. Because he used to have the
Sky Pirate thing? Like that was even the mobile game was like more based around being like a Sky Pirate.
Oh, are you talking about Balthier?
Oh, Balthier, there we go, yeah.
No, Balthier wasn't supposed to be it was supposed to be Bosch.
Oh, okay.
The Bosch, the one who they like said abandoned them. Basically the one wait. Let me not spoil that.
Well, no, that was from the first mission that you do.
They don't reveal that until like I think
whatever the game
2/3, dude.
I own like 5 copies of Final Fantasy 12. That game has been re-released and re-released and re-released. We ain't spoiling.
I like Zodiac Age. I haven't beat it yet.
Like we're not gonna do the worry about spoilers for something that's like almost 15 years old. Like
but yeah, you could tell that Vaughn was kind of just there. And I always felt, I was like, he doesn't really feel like a protagonist.
Well, he kind of just throws himself into like even conversations he's not a part of.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing here? I don't even know if you blah, blah, blah. Like, can I play with these other motherfuckers? Oh, I can. Good. And of course, my gay ass loved Fran. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, what was it? Like, why did she hit so hard?
Bruh, I don't even, I was just like, she's never leaving the party, period. Unacceptable. Fran stays in this bitch the whole time. I think, what did I have her? I had her
because she looks like Tyra Banks on a Victoria's Secret runway.
Oh my god, Balthier was fucking that. I was like, okay, wow, we have gone so far off.
Anyway, Final Fantasy 16 looks good to me.
Yeah. Let's go back to the anime.
Okay, let's just jump into the reviews then.